So, society is pretty bad and terrible. I feel it. You've probably felt it. And if you don't feel it yourself, then you've probably heard it from somebody else. And I kind of agree, but I also don't really agree. I personally, I come from a culture where it's all about society. It's all about like the community that you live in. It's all about, the sense of like oneness that like, no, we cannot technically abandon anybody. And I'm sure that's where it roots from, but essentially it ends up becoming that like this culture of like just powerlessness, this extreme culture of just like, oh no, society is bad and society is like this and we can't really do anything about it. So you just have a lot of people just sit on their asses all the time and basically just do nothing. And a lot of cultures are like that. Even American culture, that's pretty much like that as well. Like everybody's like, oh well, that's just how the world works. And you kind of just accept it and you just kind of go out with your day. And then people start presenting excuses, and they use that as an excuse to live their life, or to cheat somebody, or do whatever that they need to, or just be sharks and snakes within business or relationships and all these different things. And we face these problems on a day-to-day basis, and we have a terrible, terrible, terrible time dealing with it all. Even if you like go on TikTok or YouTube, or you log into any social media website, or you have any conversation with a real person, they'll always talk about how bad society is and how bad things are getting and how this and that and whatnot. And we have the severe case of bystander effect. Now, what is bystander effect? Basically, how I learned it is that the perfect example for this is literally like, let's say for example there's a medical emergency going on, and you yell out, and your friend has a medical emergency, and you yell out in a crowd of people, somebody call 911, right? Not the Sean Kingston song. Okay. But just in general, and it's a serious situation, and you just have a crowd of people looking around, and nobody's actually calling 911, even though you have these many people, just hundreds of people looking at you like, oh my god, what is going on? And they're all freaking out, but nobody's actually doing anything to help. Basically, the bystander effects just says that, hey, people are less likely to help in a crowd of people because they think that somebody else is going to help. Now, the problem is that literally everybody thinks the same exact way, so nobody actually comes to the rescue and calls 911 for you. Nobody does anything. So the solution to that problem is that if you are the friend and your friend is having the medical emergency, and you're trying to take care of them, instead of just yelling out, someone help, somebody please call 911, you have to literally look into that crowd, and you have to point at a specific person, and you have to say, you call 911 right now, tell them where we are. And that'll get much more accomplished, because then you've given somebody a specific responsibility to solve a specific problem that you're having at the moment, instead of just complaining, and instead of everybody just having this disbursement of responsibility, and everybody just thinking that, oh, the other person is going to handle it. And you just do that 100 times over, and then guess what? Nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever changes. That's literally how society works. That's literally how we live today. We think that another person is going to come along and change the situation that we have. We think that another politician is going to come along, change the situation that we have. Maybe get the crime rate down, or whatever the case might be. Whatever change that you want to see in your society, in your community, you are expecting, and we all are expecting to a certain extent, that somebody else is going to change just the way that we've done things. And that's one of the other excuses that we also use as well all the time. Like, oh, we've just always done things like this, so we're just going to keep it that way. And like, no, it's a bullshit excuse. And that is the problem. And you know how I said about, you need to point to a person and you need to give them the responsibility to call 911, that's what you have to do in real life too. You need to point out at yourself, and you need to tell yourself that I need to take charge into changing society. If I want my society to be better, I need to be better. Don't just make yourself a victim of society and say, oh, I'm just a part of society, so what can I do? Every single person thinks that. Every single raindrop thinks that it's not going to cause a flood. And guess what? A flood literally happens because each individual raindrop amounts to millions of raindrops, which amounts to a flood. That's exactly what happens. And I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this. You need to be the change that you want to see in society. I think MLK said this. I'm not exactly sure. It's just been attributed to so many different people, to be honest with you. So I don't really know the historically correct fact on who said it. But either way, it's there. Instead of just blaming everything on society, why don't you just take responsibility and try to change yourself? I'm not even asking you to change anybody else. I'm not asking you to change anybody in your family. I'm just asking you to change yourself. You'll quickly find that it's so hard to change yourself and to change like everything that you've basically learned throughout your life. And here you were, you made this your mission to change society. Or you were just waiting for society to change, and then you kind of realized that society was just never going to change in the first place. You know why it's never going to change? Because society is made up of individuals like you and I that don't do anything about changing it. Quit whining about responsibility and just be the change that you want to see. If you don't want people to backbite, stop backbiting yourself. Don't indulge in those conversations. If you don't want people to, cheat each other in business, don't cheat other people in business either. It might happen to you, but make sure that you are not part of that statistic that cheats other people in business. You cannot just be a bystander and just let other people dictate the rules of your life. You need to grow a backbone. You need to, get up on your 2 feet, and you need to just be the change that you want to see in society. Once you change, you'll make sure that your kids or your family members are effective by that, and you're going to teach them important lessons, and you will inspire them into changing as well. Then once you have good families, you'll have good communities, and once you have good communities, you'll eventually have a better society. You have to play the long game at any given time, because change is very slow. Especially positive change. Negative change might happen right away, but positive change has always been very slow. So instead of just blaming society, man, why don't you man up and just take responsibility as an individual? If you see something you don't like, you stop it. Don't blame anybody else. You do something about it. That's my lesson for the day. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was episode number 55 of the Daily Lessons Podcast. If you liked what I had to say, and I apologize for getting a little bit heated, but it is something that just pisses me off a lot. But make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on Spotify, go on YouTube real quick. Take 2 seconds out of your time and just hit that subscribe button for me. It'll mean the world to me. I hope you're appreciating the content. Thank you guys. This is Yusha signing out. Take care.